yourself, so that's awesome. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's a big part of what Binnall America is about too. Really, do it yourself. You know, I kind of feel like that really resonates with me. I think because that's our attitude. I sort of felt like I wanted to do my own radio show, and I did it.
Yeah.
I feel like hopefully that can inspire other people to do their own thing, and you got to get proactive and get involved, even if you're not asking for congressional hearings or doing your own radio show. Maybe put up a blog, or if you don't want to get involved in that way, dig into your pocket and make a donation, because the UFO field and the esoteric field in general is completely barren of funding, really. And we need all the help we can get. So, I mean, that would be great.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that to sort of just have an interest but not be proactive about it, or at least not be trying to help the overall cause of trying to figure out what's going on, but to be interested is counterproductive, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not too sure that I have the correct country, but I think France are one of the countries who actually have a UFO department in their government. I don't know if Canada has it, or if it just was a few people within the government who actually went, out in public and said that they, had knowledge about UFOs and so forth. But there are a few countries out there who have their, within their governments, their own UFO department, I think. I don't know if Russia is among there also. I mean, but do you think that this would... I mean, do you think if we talk about the United States, for example, do you think that this would be a good idea, so to speak, to have, that this research actually was taking place within the government itself, or is it better that it is like it is today, people who actually burn for this subject do the research, and that's the best way to do it?
Well, I'm not sure if it's the best way to do it, because we've been doing it for like 60 years and we haven't really come to a conclusion yet on what's going on. So, I mean, maybe we could use the outside help of the government, but then you get mixed up in all that intrigue of what the government's mixed up with on their end in the UFO phenomenon. There's as big a problem to the UFO phenomenon as the UFOs themselves in a lot of ways. So it's like, I mean, I barely trust that my mail is going to get here on time. So I don't know if I'd want the government handling the UFO. I wouldn't trust them to do that sort of thing. And, they've done a tremendously awful job, with all due respect, exploring space and developing space exploration and travel and all that. So I really wouldn't want them to be in charge of UFOs, because they went to the moon and then stopped going and sort of just dropped the ball on that altogether. And now you see what's going on with NASA today. It's just a mess.
I mean,
totally disappointed and disgusted with the American space program. So I don't know if I'd really want them to deal with UFOs. Although I'm sure they have their own UFO program and all that good stuff, but we don't know about it.
Sure. I mean, that's a very interesting point you bring up there, I think, regarding the space program and that they actually went to the moon. Where is it? 40 years ago now, and I mean, you have interviewed, I think, a few people talking about the fake moon landing and so forth, all of this stuff. I mean, what's your take on it? Do you think that they actually have been there?
Oh yeah, I definitely think we went to the moon. Just that actually raises a good point that I wanted to make, and that's that part of what I do on the show is I bring on people that I think either haven't had a chance, haven't been on enough shows, or I like their story and wanted to bring them on. And that's part of what, and I really thought, I'd heard Bart Sabrell on Coast to Coast, and it was an amazingly entertaining interview, and it was kind of zany, I'll admit. I mean, he was pretty zany, so I kind of wanted to do that. And it was a fascinating interview when he came on Binnall America Audio. I think part of the problem with esoteric radio, too, is that people have their own shows, then they sort of like, they're going to dictate to the audience what they're going to hear, and they're not going to dignify certain subjects, because they don't believe in it. I would love to have a Hollow Earth guest on. I don't necessarily believe in Hollow Earth, and I can see that there would be some programs that would be like, I would never have a Hollow Earth guy on because that's bogus. And I mean, that's cool, and if that's your opinion, that's fine. But who are you to decide for your audience what they should believe in? And I've had guests on who I didn't agree with what they said. I didn't really find much credence to their studies, and I would get emails from people that were like knocked over by how awesome the interview was and how spot on they thought the guest was. So I mean, who am I to judge? I mean, if I find the story remotely interesting, I want to bring the person on and sort of delve into it. And with somebody like with Bart Sabrell, moon hoax is fascinating. Not the moon hoax theory. The moon hoax theory to me is really sort of lame. But moon hoax theory itself and how, you know, like nobody wants to touch it and it's the bastard of esoterica.
Yeah.
And, you know, people laugh about it and it's like the mainstream media's punching bag. That sort of thing fascinates me. And to find out from someone like Bart, who's a big name in moon hoax, what does that feel like to be the what does it feel like to be the big name in a field that is like constantly crapped on?
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that kind of question from a lot of other programs.
I totally agree, because this is more about, in that sense, I get what you're saying, you know, about it being about the persons, because I mean, this is more about, you know, to allow people to actually, you know, follow up on a thing that they actually believe without being, you know, stopped by, you know, public opinion right from the get-go, because there is again, the narrow-mindedness of our own culture is you know, dangerous at this point, I think. So it's very important, I think, just to open up people to the many different ideas that are out there. And it isn't about if you believe it in the end or not, because that's you know, that's your personal thing. That's not the idea. So I totally agree. I think that's is a very good, very good, you know, kind of concept to have that behind you. I mean, regarding, I also wanted to ask you, of course, about the some of the NASA footage. I recently was sent. I think this was the old footage from that David Cerida, among others, have been picking up on from the STS missions and so forth. This is, you know, the NASA mission footage. They're in orbit around the Earth, and you know, you can see a lot of interesting stuff in those videos. Have you seen a few of those?
I've seen them. They're interesting.
Yeah.
It all goes back to my earlier. I hate to be a buzzkill, but it goes back to my earlier attitude of I'm terribly bored with UFO sightings and even UFO footage. And the question, to answer your question with a question, that's great footage. It's awesome. What are we going to do with it?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? You know? Because if I show it to a bunch of UFO people, they're going to be like, that's awesome. If I show it to a bunch of, like, non-believers, they're going to be like, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
But, you know, those people in the middle aren't even going to see it, really.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we have to influence the media and that kind of thing. And, you know, I feel like the collection of evidence is reaching a point of oversaturation.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, what are we going to do with all these UFO sightings? Like, what's the point at this point?
That is a good question. I mean, do you think that, you know, as you say, you're
I feel like I'm terribly frustrating for you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, no, I certainly understand. I mean, what you're getting at, but in one sense, I feel that, you know, I've given up on the mainstream media in that sense. I don't think that, you know, the answer is ever going to, you know, come from them or from them, because in some sense it still feels like a lot of people is sitting around and waiting for the mainstream media to kind of go out and say, okay, it's official, aliens exist, or UFOs are actually this or that or whatever. But I think that the answer, my take on it anyways, the answer is what, you know, people like yourself is doing right now, just being out there, producing your own, you know, radio show, your website and so forth, and kind of just phase out the mainstream media in total. What's your take on that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the mainstream media sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to do the job. I mean, we already seen that with the to go back to the O'Hare story, part of the reason why I wasn't that impressed with the O'Hare story is because am I like the only person who remembers the Mexican UFO footage from 2004 and how everybody was excited about that and talking about it, and it was all over the news for like 2 weeks. And I mean, that was 10 times better than the O'Hare story as far as like that was great footage. But it really didn't go anywhere, and apparently everybody forgot about it because they're all excited about the O'Hare story now. Yeah. And it's like, am I the only one with a memory here? What's going on?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't expect the mainstream media to get bottom of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to have to be some sort of critical mass, I guess, where the alternative media is done such a good job of educating the people. Enough people have left the mainstream media, and the alternative media has done a good enough job of educating people on to the UFO phenomenon that it reaches some kind of boiling point where the mainstream media will have to accept the UFO phenomenon as real because, you know, because of those two things happening, because of all the people abandoning the mainstream media and those people going to alternative media, which accepts the UFO phenomenon.
Yeah. You know, Tim, we're totally out of time in this segment here, but I'd love to continue with you. I have a lot of questions, you know, going into, I guess, the more weirdness of it all, and we can certainly talk more about the conspiracy and so forth. But to end this segment, why don't you tell us about your website and about your radio show to finish things off here?
Yeah, so check out BinnallofAmerica.com, and if you've never been to the site before, when you get to the main page, in blue, right under our main logo is first-time visitor to our site. Take the guided tour. Click that link. That'll sort of give you the rundown of the joint and let you know about what's what and what the columns are and what you can expect from us and all that good stuff. And I should also thank my great staff at BinnallofAmerica.com, because without the help of Leslie, Chiron, Arlie, Joe V, and Ralph Molesworth, I would not be able to do what I do, and I would not be on Red Ice Radio and all that great stuff. So thanks for having me on the show, Henrik.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Tim. We will continue in the next segment, but we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Who are we?
We are going to continue our discussion with Tim now in the subscriber section, and we'll begin to talk about a few of the UFO conferences that Tim has attended in the past. And then we'll meander over a variety of different topics and bounce some ideas about abductions, the Men in Black, the Greys, and the reptilians, and a whole lot more. So join us in the subscriber section for much more good stuff with myself and Tim. If you're interested in subscribing to the show, the easiest way is to click subscribe or sign up from our front page at redicecreations.com, and you can read much more about it from there. You'll get full access to our growing archive for about 12 US cents a day, and if you like what we do here, this is the best way you can support and help keep us going. Thank you everyone for listening to the show today, and thanks to Fredrik Palmgren behind the controls for handling the audio. We will be back this Thursday with our regular Michael Tsarion for his monthly visit. Until then, this is Henrik Palmgren. Take good care of yourself. We'll talk soon. Ice Radio.